and welcome to Hold Up, a movie podcast. Last time we hacked the planet and did a little techno hop. Tonight, we are tickled pink to make a couple of Euro stops. But this is no vacation. Something is surely afoot, so steal away with us before we're out of sight. Because we are real Berlin guys. I am your host. We're so good. I am your host, Davan Skelhorn, and with me, as always, is Chris Worldmind Murphy. How you doing, Murphy?
Guten Tag, das und shit. Sehr gut. Sehr gut. Shit, I really should practice that German a little better. I'm doing good.
I know Scheisse and Dankeschön. And Wasser? I know a little bit of German. I can sing, well, no, I guess I gotta be looking at it, but I can sort of sing, Ode to Joy, which is in German. And with us, as always, not as always, for the first time. Anyway, don't mind me. I'm a little flustered tonight.
Officially.
Jaemeel Robinson.
Salutation, fine folks. It's finally nice to be on the main show. Hold up, instead of being in the background, just kind of chirping away. So it's my turn to get some licks in and also to get my own.
Yeah. Oh man, there's gonna be some licking going on here. I'll tell you that. I'm glad you joined us, Jaemeel. You're like this hyperbolic host's greatest supporter when it comes to podcasts. So
I'm excited. I'm excited to be a part of this. This is great.
When I shine, you shine. When you shine, I shine. We're just shining each other up.
It's true, Sam. That is Jaemeel Robinson.
Hold up, is that? Yes, it certainly is. This is season 1, episode 13 of Hold Up.
Number 13.
Where we will be discussing heist movies. And I take back what I said to you earlier, Murphy. It was mostly a robbery, your movie, but the other guy planned it out a bit, so I guess I'll call it a heist. But mostly a robbery.
I got something to say about that, actually. I wrote a little something. Let me just pull that up, but you continue, and I'll bring this up.
Yes, I will continue, because we have a regular segment here on Hold Up, a Movie Podcast. Semi-regular segment. Origin Stories. Jaemeel, what's with you in movies?
It's been something that has been like a part of my growth, how I connected with my parents. My dad was heavily into westerns and Shaw Brother martial arts films. My parents would regularly take me out to the movies, so I have many examples of going into movies that were not appropriate for me at my age. And it continued. My love of movies has continued on for years to come. I'm the type of person I'll go to the movies by myself because the community aspect, the big screen, the feel, the sticky floors, the overpriced food, the booming sound. It's going to church. Movies is a theater's a cathedral to me. I love movies.
Beautifully said. Beautifully.
The only umbrage I'll take with you there, I could do without the sticky floors. Got to be honest.
It's part of the experience, unfortunately.
It is part of it.
I'm like, oh no, is that gonna be following me out of the theater? Like, if it's just on my shoe in the theater, fine, but I don't want it on my shoe when I leave.
The unfortunate part is people do not treat it as a cathedral as I. So, they'll leave their popcorn and stuff. I'm the type of person that'll take all of my eateries items and throw them in the garbage, dispose of them appropriately.
Like a gentleman.
Yes.
No, I definitely agree with the cathedral element of what you're saying. Now, I've been accused of being a bit nostalgic and perhaps living in the past. So I'll say for me that feeling's faded a bit with theaters. Like a lot of my great memories as a kid, like theaters looked different, they felt different back then, and like I'm a bit nostalgic for that. Like you'd go to the theater, there was one screen, and whatever they were playing, that's what you were watching for like an entire week or two, and then maybe you get a new movie. I remember one summer they played Black Beauty, that horse movie, for like 3 months straight and didn't change the movie.
How many times did you end up seeing it?
None. I was just like, no, I won't see Black
You
Beauty.
refused? Have you ever seen Black
Yes.
Beauty before?
No, I've refused.
That could have been your favorite movie, and you
Yeah.
missed out 3 months of experiencing it.
I
It's
guess
true. I
when we
like
do
horses. My dad
Equestrian,
owned
we're gonna
horses.
have to see if it holds up.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll do
Um,
horse movies.
I love rep theaters, and I still go to them whenever I get a chance
Mm.
to. Whenever I travel to a new city, I try to check out what the rep theaters are playing, because there's something special about seeing even just a new movie, classic movie in those type of theaters. The experience, it feels different. The chairs, people who attend those type of theaters have a certain reverence of the movie going
Oh yeah,
experience. So,
agreed.
folks, if you take one bit of advice from me today, outside of, I'll have a little tidbits later on, but go to a rep theater, support them. We need more of them. Their multiplexes will always be there. Rep theaters, that's what you need to support.
We had a great one on Quinpool Road here in Halifax, and it shut down, unfortunately. I'm
Oh
sure you've been
no.
there more than once, Murphy.
Yes, the Quinpool Road Theater. That's where they actually had the premiere of Hobo with a Shotgun. It
There you
was right
go.
around the corner from where I lived on Oxford at the time. Um,
It was
so
called the
like
Oxford.
it was called the Oxford Theater, actually. Yeah. And there was one around here in Toronto, just near High Park, called the Humber Cinema, and that
Yep.
was hands down my favorite around here. And they eventually got shut down. You know, fingers crossed they might reopen after the big condo reconstruction of 3055 or whatever. But like,
Uh,
I'm
no
not gonna hold my
inappropriate hand
breath.
gestures. Sorry, I won't do it. I was
Whoa,
gonna
whoa.
do something. um,
And yeah, go ahead.
um, yeah, um, we've lost way too many rep
Yep.
theaters in Toronto already. Um, I will always tell people go to the review because it's
Yep.
awesome. The programmer there is awesome. So Serena, shouts out to you. I miss Bloor Cinema, how Bloor Cinema used to be. I know it's now the Hot Docs
Mm.
Cinema, but I remember just garbage movies being shown, throughout the week, and then anime on the weekends, like old classic 80s, like Macross, Do You Believe in Love? Uh, you know, episodes of anime being shown, random, programming that they would have, commercials. It was a great experience. The only thing I can get near to me right now, unfortunately, is a drive-in, which is still a bit of a drive, but you take what you can get.
Truth. Yeah. No, I love
Sure,
that.
for sure.
I miss the Humber. I miss that sort of finding a genuine, unique theater vibe. Going to Cineplex is okay; it does the trick, but it feels very I don't know.
I don't want to say
It doesn't even
sanitized
feel so
because it's
sanitized.
not
Sanitized is
No,
perfect, yeah. But
it
the worst
it
thing is
fits right
not.
in.
Okay, small quote here.
It fits right
Uh,
in with my thesis for this podcast. Some things were better when there was still whimsy in the world. Now everything's just a little bland and a little generic and a little
True,
too glossy.
and
yeah.
you're
Like,
right,
I
Jaemeel.
need
It's
the
not
dirt. Give me the dirt.
Cineplex is not sanitized. I mean, in presentation it is, but behind doors, not
Oh,
so
no, no,
much.
no,
I've worked
no,
there.
no.
There's the. This is what I like to quote. One time I was in this sort of like above rafter thing. You don't even know it's there because they disguise it so well from the ground floor. But there's actually like a second floor in most theaters. Um,
Yeah, the balcony seating. Yeah, man.
anyway, and you look down over the popcorn where they're serving all the like the food and stuff, and the floor behind that register is just covered in popcorn
Oh,
to the
oh yeah.
degree that it's like an ocean and the floor itself is little islands.
I watch them scooping it, and half of it's going on the floor. There's a
Yeah. I've dealt with
Yes.
popcorn before. It's not fun.
No, no,
It's not fun.
but
It was one of the
delicious.
jobs I avoided. I just
Yes.
managed to clean bathrooms, and then they were like, "We want to put you on popcorn," and I'm like, "I don't know about that." And then the next day, they're like, Did you write your username on a towel shelf, like a paper towel shelf, with Bic pen?" And I was like, "Yeah." They're like, "That's graffiti." we have to let you go. And I'm like, you mean you don't want me to like clean it with rubbing? All right, that's fine. And I fucking took the L.
The next guy has to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. He didn't though, and he left it. Now everyone's coming after World Mine Murphy
That's
at
true.
whatever.com.
They knew me at that cinema. I forever am
You-
infamous at the.
Before we move
Sure.
on, little quick shout out to my childhood and the Imperial Theater in Windsor, Nova Scotia.
Ooh.
Except for the one time they kicked me out for trying to sneak in a pop. When you actually couldn't take your own food into a theater.
For me, it was
still
for
not
me, it was
supposed to,
the-
but
Oh, they
it
don't
wasn't
stop you
the
no more. They don't know if you bought that water from them or from someone else. Like, they don't know.
for me the childhood cinema in Nova Scotia was Bedford, the Bedford Cinema.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I got to see like Jurassic Park. No, did I? No, it wasn't Jurassic Park. I see Insurrection Day there, Pokemon.
You mean
pretty
Independence
much-
Day?
Yeah, Independence Day. I don't know why I said
Insurrection
Insurrection Day. I'm like, is that a Star Trek movie I missed?
Sorry, I've been watching a lot of Star Trek lately. Yeah, anyway. But I did see Insurrection there too, actually, now that you think about it, and Generations.
go.
I saw a lot of movies at that theater.
so young.
Uh,
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Hey, Jurassic Park was a formative movie moment for me at the theater too. Amazing.
I didn't
Blew
I
my
didn't
mind.
think I saw it in theaters, but I did see it like on tape, and I was still young enough, and I remember being terrified by the T-Rex and hiding behind my grandfather's reclining chair and him just
Oh,
laughing
man,
his ass off at me.
I was afraid of stainless steel kitchens for at least a year.
Ooh.
But anyway, let's see what's going on in Theater 1, shall we? In Theater 1, we have my pick of this evening. Sorry about that, fellas. The Pink Panther from 1963, starring Peter Sellers, David Niven, Capuchin, not the monkey, the person apparently, Claudia Cardinal, and Robert Wagner, who I didn't even recognize, but now that I'm thinking about it, I know who he played, but man, I didn't even recognize him. And directed by Blake Edwards. So, why don't you hit the trailer for us there, Murphy?
I will hit that trailer, but just to interject about the heists and
Yep.
the robberies, just so we're clear.
All right.
Okay,
Bring out the
because
Oxford definition of heist and robbery.
sort of, more or less. Heists and robberies are not exactly the same thing, although they both are crimes that involve stealing property or money. A robbery is a type of theft where someone takes something by force or by threat of force. This can include using weapons, physical violence, or intimidation to take something from a person or business. For example, bank
Oh,
robbery.
so your and Jameel's picks were both robberies. Is that the
I
point you're trying
disagree.
to make?
I disagree.
Oh, I see where he's coming from. I thought that
Will you let-
myself.
Jesus
I picked a
Christ,
heist.
Evan. Jesus Christ, Evan. Can you let me finish speaking for 5
Did I get it?
seconds?
Did I get
didn't
it?
even
Did I
get
guess
a
it right?
full sentence out. No,
But did
you're
I guess
jumping
it?
ahead. No.
I was guessing. It's
You're
fun.
not, what do you, well, there's nothing to guess. There's nothing to guess. I was just trying to make an explanation between robbery and heist, and you can't even fucking let
Oh.
me do that before interjecting.
I was backing
before
you
I'm
up.
done the first
I thought you were
sentence.
going to accuse Jameel of the same thing I accused
I'm
you
not
of. and I was
accusing
had your
anybody
back,
of
Murphy.
anything.
But now I withdraw my backing of you. Continue.
This is what I deal with. This is what I deal
Nope.
with every time.
Withdrawn. Oh, he knows what you deal with. He's listened to every episode.
A bank robbery involves stealing money from a bank using force or threat of force. A heist, on the other hand, is a type of robbery that involves a complex and well-planned operation to steal something valuable, such as a large sum of money or a valuable artwork. Heists often involve a group of people working together to plan and execute the theft, using careful planning, sophisticated tools, and tactics, sometimes even disguises or elaborate schemes to avoid detection. Heists are often portrayed in popular culture, such as in movies like Ocean's 11. So all heists are robberies, not all robberies are heists.
Agreed. So my movie was a heist. Both of your movies were robberies.
I disagree, but we'll get to it.
We'll get to it when we get there.
I mean, I'm not gonna argue the fact that my movie was probably a robbery.
Well, yours was legit a bank robbery. They call them bank robberies.
Yeah, but I mean, that being said,
yeah.
it was.
But whatever.
It is what
I
it is,
liked
and
it.
we'll
So we'll
dissect
get
it.
there.
So yeah,
Yeah.
we'll get to the snorefest that is the Pink Panther. Let us crack open
Agreed.
our memories.
Agreed.
And we're
One
not
sec.
watching.
I want to know what Jaemeel was counting.
I was so just to clarify, folks, the argument was that Davan cuts off World Mine every 5 seconds, and I clearly showed 5 seconds. We'll check it on YouTube, where World Mine was able to speak without interruption. Just stating the facts.
All right,
Vindicators.
well,
Vindicators 2.
good lord.
All right.
We need to get a clip of buddy from Brooklyn Nine-Nine saying vindication. Anyway, let's get all right. Just to clarify, we're not gonna watch that 4-minute episodic.
Please.
Surprise, motherfucker.
No, we're watching
That's the only
this
clip I had for you.
A master thief. A priceless treasure. And an international mystery only one man can solve.
We must find that woman.
The one. The only. Inspector Clouseau.
Let me kiss your face. You will be witness to the capture of the notorious felon.
Peter Sellers. In the role that launched a comic legend.
What are you suggesting? It's been a night of surprises.
Take your filthy hands off my ass.
The Pink Panther.
Man,
So
that
let me just
definitely
open
was-
here. Since it was my pick, I should probably defend it somewhat. So here's the thing: Peter Sellers, I still enjoyed in this movie. He definitely carried the whole thing. Like the story was boring, most of the interactions between characters were boring, but whenever he tripped over something, I still laughed. And let me tell you, that's one of the few instances I've seen in a movie, at least in a very long time, that did slapstick properly. Like John Belushi or Chris Farley tripping over something isn't funny because they're already these wacky, outrageous characters, right? But Peter Sellers is trying to play this kind of straight, very serious sort of cop character. So like when he trips over something, they show his face.
You
he's,
trying
like,
to say
actually, like,
John Belushi and
embarrassed.
Chris Farley aren't funny when they're being slashed?
No,
Sir, I just
no,
you
yeah,
no, you take
no, yeah,
no,
kind of.
no,
I am,
no.
yeah. Chris Farley doesn't make me laugh when he's falling over.
Chris
Like,
Farley's
that's
made me
I-
laugh doing any of his slapstick more than Peter
I-
Sellers did in this
I think
movie.
the argument here is, from Davin's point of view, is the action itself isn't funny. It takes a combination of things for the slapstick to be funny in a Chris Farley situation, where in this case, Peter Sellers' performance in a bubble is funny because he's a straight man doing slapstick.
yes,
Well, I mean,
that's
Do you
exactly what
find
I'm
that more fair assessment?
I mean,
Yes.
yeah, that's a fair assessment. I mean, but the thing too is the entirety of his humor was within that trailer that we witnessed. The entirety of pretty much all the Peter
Oh,
Sellers.
yeah, it was
just
scenes,
more
anything
and
that
more
wasn't
of that.
dialogue.
I think there was
Well,
a
no,
lot of
my scene was
wordplay.
funny.
There's wordplay as well that I think was pretty clever as well for Peter Sellers.
Well, it mentioned in the trailer that it's the role that made him a comedy star, and I can see that. That's a good start to a comedy career. He was definitely the star of this movie and what carried it. And of course, he god tier comedy he does in Doctor Strangelove. So, you know, god
Which
tier.
low key is the basis
So-
of why you pick this.
Yeah.
Yes. I wanted to
Yep.
see more Peter Sellers, and so I was a bit let down by this because I was expecting like Doctor Strangelove, but like I shouldn't have had
Well,
such
the
high
truth is, you should have
expectations.
picked. You did a Gremlins again. Is basically what happens. You picked the
If
first.
you
film,
besmirch
which
Gremlins
wasn't
again
as-
tonight, Murphy, we're
and-
done here.
and
We
the
are done
second
here.
Film, you should have went with was like the Return of the Pink Panther, because after this film, Peter
Is it
Sellers
better?
became. Well, it's not. I don't know if it's better, but there's like the main.
So why
character
would
of
you
the
make
film
that
is Peter
statement?
Sellers.
You straight up made that a
Confused
statement.
too. I'm glad it's not just me.
Well, from what I remember as a kid, because I barely remember this franchise, it was the later Pink Panther films, not this first one, that I enjoyed more because they were
Steve
a little more
Martin.
funnier. No, not
Wasn't
Steve
it?
Martin.
No.
There was the whole franchise of Pink Panther films. That
Oh, yeah,
came
there
out
was.
after this,
Yeah.
right? And the sequels, the first 2 or 3 sequels, I think, probably just the second and third, I guess, had Peter Sellers in it, and they were considered to be a little more funnier than this film.
Well, because he was the
Well,
focus, as opposed to
Yeah,
he was a side character. He Urkeled himself into a franchise.
I'd like to feature on this show at some point. I don't know what theme it would fall into, but that movie that got him the casting in Doctor Strange, where he plays like 7 or 11 roles or something like that. And apparently that one was quite good, so
Mhm.
be interested to see. Great character actor though. But
Yeah.
anyway, Clouseau, he was okay. The music is what carries this movie. It's what kept me in. The Henry Mancini jazz just was great. That was the highlight for me.
I
Now,
felt like they only had 2 songs. I mean,
Oh,
there
they,
was,
they had multiple ones.
they had, yeah, but it really, the only 2 seemed to stand out in my memory, which was like the Pink Panther one and the musical number. And they played that once, not just like, as she's performing, but they also played the song again in the costume party in the later half of the film. So,
Can't wait till
yeah,
the morsels part.
well, let's get through the bits here, or not so much the bits. The plot of Pink Panther 1963, where we start off with a Once Upon a Time. In the 1963 film Pink Panther, directed by Blake Edwards, the largest diamond in the world, the Pink Panther is given as a gift to Princess Dala Claudia Cardinal by her father, the Shah of Lugasha.
that's not Claudia Cardinal.
No, this is the young child version of her as a young woman, but rebels seize power in Lugash and demand the jewel back, which is touched upon in sort of a news article later on. The film then follows the antics of the mysterious British jewel thief known as the Phantom, Sir Charles Linton David Niven, who is also a playboy, and his American nephew, George Robert Wagner.
All right, I got to cut you off right there. Why in the 60s and before could men not be considered a sex symbol until they were 65? Like, these characters are grating on me a bit, where they're like they always have these like young 20-something women, and they're always fawning over these right old dudes. And there's like, I don't know, it kind of bothers me a
It's
little.
old Hollywood. It's terrible.
Yeah, it is terrible.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a whole we're the silver age of Hollywood. We own Hollywood, so we still have budding careers. Let's make out with all these young actresses and stuff.
Yeah.
No, like he's
Suave,
this young playboy. He's
sophisticated.
got like 10 women all over Europe, and it's just like he's like 65 and walks with a cane. It's just like what? Anyway, yeah. I mean, the cane, I think they say, is some sort of injury.
Yeah, he's faking an injury.
Skiing. Yeah, from skiing or something. Right? Yeah.
Meanwhile, the clumsy French police inspector Jacques Clouseau, played by Peter Sellers of the Surete, who is unaware that his wife Simone Capuchon, is she just called Capuchon? Did she not have a first and last name? I
don't know it. I just saw Capuchin. I'm pretty sure it's called Capuchin because it's spelled like the monkey. Capuchin.
Maybe. His wife Simone. She's the paramour of Sir Charles, and helps him with his crimes and tries to stop the theft attempts. But, it's comedically inept. In addition to his bumbling attempts to catch the thief, there are scenes of the skiing resort hotel that show Madame Clouseau dodging her husband while trying to carry out Sir Charles' plan and avoid George, who's enamored of her.
Ninja.
It's
my ninja.
The pacing of this film, I found to be very long.
And it just jumps from location to location and from character to character, like without really much connective tissue. I find, like, for the first half of the movie, I was very confused about what was even happening.
Okay, I was like, how did Princess Dala get the? How did she get the Pink Panther? Did she steal it from the Indian girl? Because I was
she is the Indian girl.
I know. I later realized that.
Oh, but you're like, exactly. Like, why is she white now? Yeah, that's the question.
And then I realized who was the director, and I'm like, oh, he has a tendency.
Well, then you see this guy who they painted brown. Like that was the worst. Like, look at him.
Did he eventually play a Klingon on Star Trek? Because it's
oh my god, that's Klingon makeup for sure.
So yeah, there's this whole scene where there, he I forget his name already. The Panther, Sir Charles Linton,
Clouseau.
has
So
yeah,
Linton.
no, not Clouseau, but
Linton.
Charles Linton. He runs a whole scheme to steal this woman's dog, so he can get closer to her, and he like apparently hurts his leg, quote unquote, and that's when Clouseau enters the scene.
Balls on him. It's just like, oh, that was Sir Lighton. That I
Yeah,
just fell onto.
certainly. So yeah, this is where you start to find out they're like next door neighbors in a hotel, and there's this whole like back and forth that proceeds to go on for like the next 40 minutes of
God,
just
that
like,
guy's distracting.
circle play of
The painted guy, man. He just like
It-
distracted me so much every time. He
this movie was such dry, highbrow, aristocratic humor, but it was obviously a lampoon of films. But that being said, we get to the point where Robert Wagner's character enters the fray, the party, if you will, in the hills.
Yeah, man.
And
Didn't
this is
recognize him, but now I see.
yeah. Now you see it. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely the youngest I've ever seen him in a movie.
So yeah, so Robert, this leads to the one and only scene in this movie that honestly made me laugh was the scene that holds up for me, which is this one.
Yes, sir.
Scotch on the rocks.
Oh, thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much. Say, I'm looking for my uncle, Sir Charles Lytton. Darling, may I get you some water?
Hold your hands over your head.
Yes, my darling, and bend forward. You're right, my darling.
So my darling,
I've
and
watched
lean
that
forward.
5 times and it gets me every time.
Yeah.
Put your hands up and lean forward. Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Um,
Like some of his klutzy stuff, like I say, I enjoyed his slapstick. I'm surprised at how often I sort of giggled at him kicking something or tripping over something, because, yeah, he did that well.
I
He's
mean,
a good
he
comedic
did it well,
actor,
but
Peter Sellers.
to be fair, the real like powerhouse of this film was Capuchin. Like she
Really?
held this film. No, seriously,
Well,
she held
no,
this
it's Peter
film
Sellers.
together.
It's Peter Sellers. She's good.
Like she had a role to
I mean,
play,
she's
mind you.
fine.
I absolutely yes, I understand that, but like her character is written as such a nothing burger. Like
Oh no, for sure. But she acts her ass off as that nothing burger. Every scene she's in, she's doing what she can to basically demand the screen, and she, without her sort of, I guess you could say, back and forth with the other male actors, and
I would say she had zero chemistry with David Niven, but she did have chemistry with Peter Sellers.
I
They
agree.
were funny together.
David Niven could been swapped out with like a broom.
Here's your nothing burger.
Oh my gosh.
yeah,
There's
he
your nothing
was.
burger.
There's a reason. The funny thing was he thought there was going to be a whole franchise of the Pink Panther based off of him. So he's actually pretty jaded.
Because he was the
that-
thief.
Yeah, he was the thief, and he thought there was going to be a whole series of movies, and everything switched when Peter Sellers came on board, and then he became the focus as Jacques Clouseau.
Yeah.
And then
And he's Peter Sellers.
yeah, and Niven ended up not actually touching the franchise up until after Peter Sellers died.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, we had this whole scene where she like thinks she's sneaking in to Charles, but it's actually his nephew
Wagner.
Wagner, and he gets all kissy and gropey, and there's a lot of that, a bit too much of that in my opinion.
Well, he gets really kind of menacing and threatening with her later, where he just keeps kind of following her and staying close to her, and she's trying to get away. Like that was gross.
Yeah,
There's a lot of gross stuff.
There was.
so we actually with this we get to Davan's favorite scene.
See, this made me chuckle.
Oh, Jack, I don't think you should.
Don't worry, my darling. I shall do it ever so soft.
Oh, Jack, are you sure?
My darling, of course, it's always worked before. There's no reason why it should not work now. And you just relax and leave everything to me.
Trying to get her in the mood.
Terrible.
Jack,
Yes, my darling.
I really don't think it's such a good idea.
He just has this Stradivarius that he keeps around, and he's like a horrible violin player, but he has this like awesome violin.
I do like the payoff with that violin. It
He steps
was
on and
well
breaks it.
timed, excellent.
Oh yeah, me too. Yeah,
Yeah.
he crushes his own Stradivarius.
So yeah, this basically cat and mouse game goes on for like the next 40 minutes of the film. Where eventually Claudia's Dalla character comes to visit Charles at his place, where she's
Okay.
admitted earlier she never drinks. So this guy's like, well, have a little drinky poo, why don't you?
Yeah.
So he,
Ugh.
does that
Yeah.
like groomer 101, which is to get the young impressionable lady drunk. And
Oh,
apparently
he's just a young hotshot, Murphy. He's just a young up and comer himself.
Okay.
Well,
That's fine. But
but
honestly,
that
what I
leads-
couldn't get over in this scene, this was my least favorite scene in the movie, by the way. I
Ooh.
couldn't get over the tiger on the floor.
You mean
Okay.
Jameel's scene that holds up? This one?
Yes,
Oh no, I hate this.
and I'll explain why
Okay.
when it starts playing.
Sorry. Wrong.
We'll get there.
My first elephant. I was 6 when I went on my first safari. Frazari. Wild animal hunt. And I was 10
They called that in
when I
India?
bagged my first tiger. But I'll never forget my lovely little pony.
When did you bag him?
When did you bag?
That was
Oh,
funny,
you're
actually.
making fun again. You
But I
really
still
don't like
just
animals.
stared at the poor tiger,
Don't
though.
trust a man who doesn't care about animals.
So this is practically a monologue because he gives her nothing in terms of what to act
Oh,
off
yeah.
of, and she is just so charismatic, right? Dealing with this, like I'm not a fan of the monologue to begin with. I just found that she took this, garbage and made it into something at least a little bit palatable. And every time they switch back to him, I'm like, oh God, he's there.
Me too.
I think that she, like, to me, if I was a producer, I'd be like, we need to get her into something better than this. Because I
She
thought
could have
that
been a
she
good
was great.
Bond villain of the day.
She was
Like a Bond girl. I guess
Yes.
they
She would have been a
Like,
great Bond
yeah.
girl, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Actually,
if it wasn't
funny you
this
say
scene,
that,
it would have been
Jaemeel.
the step into the violin scene. I thought that was just
As
a
much
great
as
job.
I think we're in simpatico tonight here as far as our scenes, Jaemeel. But if it, other than the fact that I was staring at the poor tiger the whole time, I actually had that thought while we were watching that scene that like she is cutting this up and she'd make a good Bond girl. Like, yeah, she's good.
Yeah,
I don't know if she's in
that
much
tiger
more
comes into play
movies
as
after this.
Charles attempts to pick her up, but ultimately gives up and just wraps her up and drags her into his own bedroom, of all places, to put her in bed. That's when he discovers that George is at the hotel. Again, more of this
Creepy
cat
George.
and mouse between George and Charles and Clouseau, and them trying to basically find the Pink Panther diamond. It's just so disjointed and it jumps around that it was a bit hard to
Yeah, they
keep
probably
track of.
mentioned the Pink Panther diamond twice in this movie, and probably not for the first hour and 20 minutes. Like, it's just more about this like kind of cat and mouse thing with like the women and the men. Like, it's like
I like
what-
musical sequences. I hate when the person's performing to the camera with people watching you,
Full
like
fourth wall
Yeah.
break. This is the most
Yeah.
distracting musical number ever. Let me look
was.
at the camera while everybody doesn't look at anything. They're gonna look at the ground and pretend they're not looking at anything. It's like
Peter Sellers looks hilariously awkward there. Again, great comedic actor.
Yeah, he was holding it together. He was like that shy uncle that just kind of like does the hip toss and the
Yeah.
little hand wavies and like the penguin dances. But yeah, he gets into the slapstick. He basically, through a series of buffoonery, he basically clumses his way into finding this whole damn thing.
Pretty much. I mean, I just remember there's this one scene early in the movie where he's like at the police station, I think. And during this like very short scene, he ends up bumping into like 3 different things, and when he kicks the third one, which is like a garbage can or something, just the look on his face, he's just so defeated with how clumsy he is. Like it was very fun, but that was almost my favorite scene.
Yeah, this whole scene went on for 40 minutes from the beginning to the end. The whole like hide you under the bed, hide you under the curtains, hide from this room, go to this room. But this scene was too much. I was like, okay, you need to chill, kid.
We've seen this like this whole sequence has been done to death in the year since. But the thing is, we've seen it done a lot better, a lot quicker, a lot more snappier. It doesn't have the stylings of Peter Sellers, who he does a great job in terms of his part. But overall, this could have been done and has been done so much better.
I feel like this could have been a 40-minute episode of Murder, She Wrote, or even like a 22-minute episode of an 80s sitcom.
Yeah.
So fun fact here, this bubble bath scene, they apparently used like an industrial grade like
Jesus. They didn't burn her, did they?
All the actors in this scene, their skin was burnt from using this, and Wagner, because he's basically head deep, was blind for 4 weeks after that.
So dumb.
What?
Yeah.
Somebody got paid to make that tub full of bubbles.
You don't even really see the water. Like
yeah, it's just all bubbles, and then there's like a foreground, somebody's using steam, and like it's clearly on a set. The fact, like, there was another quote that said the director wanted to exercise the brutal painfulness of humor. So he would purposely make scenes run on longer than they needed to, so people would like
he
get
clearly did.
uncomfortable. And he would just be like, that's their breaking point. Cool. Run another 5 minutes with it. It's just like, oh, you
didn't work.
goddamn
It didn't
monster.
work. Like, that's Seth MacFarlane humor. Like, if you just make this scene 2 minutes longer, maybe somebody will laugh.
Yeah, like, it just kept going and going.
The champagne, that was a good payoff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah.
Even
I felt sticky after that. They're just so covered in champagne.
And yeah, it's just like continuously going to the point where his nephew finds his like stash bag. I thought this was a pretty cool scene, actually. This probably would have been a held up scene for me, just for the whole like mechanism of his break-in like gear.
His toolkit.
But then his toolkit. But then it becomes buffoonish because it's like, one, why is he hiding from his nephew? Is he not in on it? Maybe he's not in on it. Two, he then proceeds. I thought he was dead here. I was like, oh, he's gonna die. Oh, this is.
Then who's
dope.
gonna steal the Pink Panther if he dies in a snowfall?
Here's where my brain went. He dies, and it turns out Clouseau's actually the Pink Panther all along. Oh, that would be cool. That would make a great movie.
The diamond's the Pink Panther. You mean the Phantom?
Well, I mean, Clouseau's the thief, the actual thief, the Phantom. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Well, you can kind of say that the branding of this movie is kind of it misleads the public, because if you ask the public who's the Pink Panther, they would say it's Jacques Cousteau.
Yeah,
Jacques Clouseau. Jacques. I'm saying his name wrong.
It's Clouseau.
Clouseau. Okay. And they even the sequels where they have his quote unquote progeny being the investigator. The movie is called Son of Pink Panther.
Yeah.
It puts that
how
in
to be a son of a diamond.
Yeah.
And like, how do you keep having movies named Pink Panther that people keep trying to steal the same diamond?
Well, apparently the diamond was only like a centerpiece for the first 3 movies, and then after that it was just
the first 3.
Yeah. So it's a Knives Out situation where they're like, oh shoot, it's popular, but we named it something, so we're just gonna keep that name with anything. It wasn't Glass Onion. It was Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery.
I haven't seen either of those movies yet.
Yeah, I haven't seen either of these yet. Yeah.
Oh Lord, you guys. All right, moving on.
If you're on this
Um,
show because you've seen more movies, and I've stopped watching a lot of movies 20 years ago, but this movie's seed. Well, funny you mentioned in your origin story, Jaemeel. One of the seeds that started this podcast was watching movies you're too young to watch. That's what started me.
So yeah, in spite of basically Clouseau's, own buffoonery, he like loses his jacket. He's walking around pointing his gun at people. Charles manages to escape, so he manages to capture Sir Charles and George when they both make the attempt to steal the diamond during a costume party, um, which I couldn't. Was it Halloween? Was this just like
That's a
It was just a
restaurant, by the
costume
way.
party.
That outside shot is a restaurant.
Yeah,
Los Angeles.
but
I'm
it's
pretty
just a
sure.
costume party.
Oh, really? It's a restaurant? Interesting.
I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
that's a restaurant.
It makes
Like a
sense for it
famous
to be a restaurant.
I forget what it's called.
This scene went on for a bit. There was obviously the Peter Seller, slapstick. It started getting really confusing when they brought in the gorillas, but that was kind of the point. They make you think it's one guy, and then there's like two, and then there's three, and then there might have been four for all we know. The one scene that kind of started to pick up was when Peter Sellers picks up a Roman candle and like the lights go out. And he's like, "Oh, I found a candle," and then it just like friggin' fireworks the entire house and proceeds to
Knowing
go
their
off.
safety record, I was wondering, like, did
Who
anyone
died
get
during that
hurt?
You know what? I didn't find any notes about anybody getting injured, but I mean they were just
Yeah,
Roman
it's not like
candles
it
for the
was
most
John
part.
Landis.
Yeah.
It's like, how many kids did you kill this time?
Basically, the ensuing car chase through the streets ends with all the vehicles colliding with one another. There's this whole scene here that's supposed to be homage to like a Hitchcock film about this guy who can't cross the street because cars keep crossing his path. Apparently, nobody picked up on this reference when the guy first made the film. I know I didn't, but this scene was
Because
just
it's
like,
a poorly done reference.
it was so poorly done, and it went on forever. Like it could have ended quickly, and it should have. But yeah, all the vehicles collide with one another. We get the scene where the uncle and nephew are in prison, and Clouseau's thinking he's got.
Are
his
they in prison? They
bang.
seem like they're in a very comfortable space.
It's
Very
a prison
relaxed.
or a jail. Perhaps a jail or holding cell.
It's a jailhouse, yeah.
Yeah.
French jailhouse. Is that where we are?
Yeah, so even cushier, right? Am I right?
Yeah.
I got some bad news for you, Sam. KBBL is on the show.
But there's lots of great episodes that were already made. So just go back and start with season 1 of The Simpsons and just pair it with an episode of KBBL that it corresponds with. That's your evenings for the next couple of days. Enjoy. You're welcome.
There you go. Where was I? Right. So yeah, later Simone discovers that Princess Dollar herself stole the diamond from her own safe for fears of her being deported back to Lugash. Or Lugash. Lugas. I don't know how to pronounce this, but what will
You spell it?
Lugash. Lugash. Lugash?
It's a fictional country.
Is it fictional? Okay.
It's a fictional country.
Well, we'll go with
I
Lugi.
just assumed it was India.
Simone offers to help Dala by taking possession of the diamond and decides to help out Sir Charles and George when they're put on trial for theft. The conviction looks inevitable until Princess Dala and Simone hatch a plan to frame Clouseau. The defense calls a surprise Clouseau to the stand as their lone witness. The barrister asks a series of questions, suggests that Clouseau himself could be the Phantom. The unnerved Clouseau pulls his handkerchief out of his shirt pocket, revealing the jewel planted there by Madame Clouseau. As Clouseau is
It
being
was a
driven
missed
away,
opportunity not calling him Le Fantôme.
La Fantôme.
Yeah.
So yeah, Clouseau basically gets let out, and he's just mobbed to death by all these women saying he's the Pink Panther and yada yada, or he's the Phantom and yada yada. And as Clouseau's being driven away,
You're still saying it. You'll probably call him the Pink Panther at least 5 more times before this is done.
It's
not your fault. It's not your fault.
All they need to do was just say, the biggest heist of his career is the stealing of the Pink Panther. So we've dubbed him now, Clouseau, as the Pink
Pink
Panther.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure
One
maybe
line,
they do
bam,
that.
done.
Maybe they do it. Yeah,
Maybe they do.
in later movies. Yeah.
So yeah, Simone expresses that she's regretful and fears that Clouseau will rot in prison. Sir Charles points out that it takes years for people to rot, and when the Phantom strikes again, he'll be as free as a bird. Sir Charles, Simone, and George drive away together as a united team to continue the life of crime elsewhere, and Dala leaves to go back to her country. In the police car, the officers tell Clouseau that as the Phantom, he is a national hero and a sex idol for millions of young women, and add that they are very envious of him. When they ask him with some difference how he committed all these robberies, Clouseau, defeated and bewildered, apparently still unaware of his wife's betrayal, but happy to realize that in a few years, when he's released, he will have all the women in the world after him. Sighs and smiles a little, then replies, well, it wasn't easy. And then the film ends with the cartoon character, the Pink Panther,
Lord.
who was a police officer, getting run over.
It
by
goes
a
on
police
to
car.
great fame, that cartoon character. I
We
used to
get the
watch
end.
the Matt Frewer cartoon. Matt Frewer was the voice of the Pink Panther, but Matt
Yep.
Frewer's great at everything.
He is a legend.
Yeah, legend. Somebody's spamming our chat with like the same message, but from several different accounts.
Yes.
Turds.
Yes. And Matt Frewer also in a Marvel property.
Generation X.
Really?
Yes. Which I rewatched recently, about a month ago.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
How'd that hold up for you?
Look, I was a big Gen X. Sorry, I am a big Gen X fan. So back in 1996, when it first aired, I watched that movie because I recorded it on VHS, and I was reciting the movie as it was playing.
my
I knew
God.
it still like the back of my hand.
Wow.
Welcome to Hastings, butt breath. Yes, Generation X. That's Chris
Number
Bichello
one.
and Scott Lobdell.
Oh, yeah, Chris Bacalo. Yeah, Bacalo.
I'd never pronounced that man's name properly.
Bacalo or Bacalo. But...
That's what you get with the print, with the written word.
It's Bajilo.
Well, that's why I do the name pronunciations on this show.
What if it's Bajilo? I could be right.
It's not.
It's not. I've never heard it. I've never heard anyone attempt it that way.
No. Murphy, you're banned from names forever now. But yeah, that's the movie. That's the movie.
That's the Pink Panther.
What do we have to say about the Pink Panther? Well, let's go
Lord.
to our usual. That was our plot. What do you think of the plot storytelling? Like, boring, right?
Yeah, no.
Too long.
It takes forever to get
Disjointed.
going. Yeah.
I had a yada yada through the middle, like 45 minutes of the film, basically.
I had to I had to stop it and then start all over again to try to see if I can piece together where George's character came into play, because it just he appears and it's meanwhile I'm like, what? Right? And then it takes forever to get back to him.
I was so confused when she ended up in the bedroom with Robert Wagner that first time, and she was just kissing him all of a sudden. I'm like, what is even happening here?
Yeah, it was the weirdest incestual throuple I've ever seen.
It was very strange. Which performance would you guys hold up? For me, Peter Sellers, he's fantastic. I mean, this is not a fantastic movie or a fantastic role, but he did as much as he could with it, I thought.
Yeah.
Decent start for him.
Let's see. Peter Sellers, of course, absolutely. Capuchin, and Claudia Cardinelli.
Yeah.
I thought they were all good with what they had. Right? It wasn't much, but they tried to make the best out of the situation.
Yeah, the thing
He
is,
was the real charisma vacuum in this.
Well, yeah. Peter Sellers was the charisma vacuum, but Capuchin.
No.
And no, I meant the other way. Yeah, he was devoid of charisma.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yes. No. Yes. Well. Yeah. No. Yeah. I felt the same about Capuchin and Claudia Cardinal. Just the fact that their scenes that they were in were more believable than anything Nevin was in, and you know, every other scene. Like, it was, I felt myself just wanting more Peter Sellers out of this film, and I was like, I thought I was expecting more of him, and I'm like, wow, he's like a third of this film for the most part.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's like it almost felt like a movie with no star, other than the fact that Peter Sellers was just better than everybody else. But the setting aesthetic. One comment I have on that: the Pink Panther diamond, looked terrible, and they talk about how it has like the outline of a panther in it, but when they zoom in on it, you don't
You
see
don't
any
see
of that.
anything.
Like, there's no you expect to see it. You're like, oh, we get to see the panther, and it's just like a bunch of lines, and you're like, what? That was it? Because they
Yeah.
zoom in and everything. It's just like, here's the diamond. It's like, what a letdown that even was. Like, this movie started off with a letdown. Like,
Yeah. Exterior
um,
shots look good because of where they were filming, but
yeah.
a lot of the interior shots outside of the restaurant that we have for the costume party, a lot of blank walls with like it feels really like they're in a studio just making it.
Doesn't feel like Europe.
Yeah,
Like,
No.
yeah,
it could be any hotel.
yeah, for sure. Well, I guess that brings us to
Movie
and
morsels for Panther.
satiate our hunger, Murphy.
Satiate your hunger with some movie morsels
Mm-hmm.
from the
Yes.
1963 film
Let's
Pink
see if you
Panther.
got the one that I have in mind.
All right. Well, if I dropped anything on the floor, Jameel's got it. So let's see what happens.
We had Crumblies with KH last episode, so now we got
Jujubes with Jameel.
yeah, something like that.
Spare change.
It's spare change.
Of
Spare
course.
change.
Of course.
It was there the whole time. I feel terrible for not thinking about it. So yeah, movie morsels. Peter Sellers' character, Inspector Jacques Clouseau, was originally intended to have a small role in the film, but his performance was so popular with the audiences that he became the main character in subsequent films. Between 1964 to 93, 9 Inspector Clouseau or related films would be released. Although Inspector Clouseau from 1968 and the movies made after Peter Sellers' death are mostly not considered canon, all but 2 would carry the Pink Panther title, but only 4 of the films actually deal with the Pink Panther diamond itself. This one, The Return of the Pink Panther from 75, Trail of the Pink Panther from 82, and Curse of the Pink Panther from 83. The reason they still kept the Pink Panther in the title was because it had become synonymous with Inspector Clouseau.
I don't feel like this concept or these characters deserve that many movies. Like, they didn't. I don't get it.
It's the most baffling franchise. It's the most baffling franchise. The film's
other than like Transformers.
The film's
They keep
iconic
making
animated
those.
title sequence, featuring the cartoon Pink Panther, was created by David H. DePatie and Franz Freleng. David Niven's character.
Freleng, yeah.
Freleng, yeah. David Niven's character, Sir Charles Linton, is based on the real-life jewel thief Arsène Lupin. The film was originally titled The Pink Diamond, but the title was changed to The Pink Panther to capitalize on the popularity of the animated title sequence.
Pink Diamond would not have got 9 movies.
No.
I'm making that call right now.
Oh
No movie called The Pink Diamond would have got 9 sequels.
A lot of this movie was literally just spun off because of the intro and the music and stuff.
The
which
music
won awards. It won an Academy
It
Award.
carried this movie. Sometimes, a few times, I just closed my eyes and listened to the music and didn't watch the movie.
Claudia Cardinal's character, Princess Dalla, was originally written as a more minor role, but her performance was expanded during filming. Claudia Cardinal could not speak English, so Princess Dalla's dialogue was dubbed by 20-year-old Gail Garnett.
Oh my gosh.
Didn't even notice the dubbing.
It
It was good dubbing.
Please tell me that Gail Garnett had like a substantial career doing something, because she was, I think, her ability to express and like, okay, I'm looking.
Didn't speak English. How did she mouth the words? Doesn't make sense.
Where her
In
accent was probably so heavy and
Oh,
everything.
yeah.
in the bath scene, Capuchin and Robert Wagner, an industrial strength foaming agent was used, which burned both the stars. I mentioned that earlier. And in the director's commentary for the DVD of this film, he tells the story of picking up Sellers from the airport and immediately bonding over their shared love of old comedians like Buster Keaton and Harold Lloyd. Rest in peace, Buster Keaton. Who Blake Edwards was friends with, actually, was Harold Lloyd. By the end of the car ride, they had agreed to change the Clouseau character to incorporate slapstick. Cinematography from Philip Lothrop, edited by Ralphie Winters, music by Harry Mancini, December 18th, 1963 in Italy, but
And it's
March
Henry
18th,
Mancini.
64 for a U.S. release date. It's Henry Mancini, yes. Running time of 113 minutes, a budget of $3 million estimated, with a box office of $10.9 million. It was a huge success at the time. It's made a lot of money.
It's
which is
still a
why it
huge
made
success,
lot of
even with your
franchises.
marketing budget too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well.
Gail Garnett. Doing a little
Mhm.
quick little search on her. New Zealand born, became a Canadian citizen.
Oh,
Penned
wow.
the Grammy winning folk song We'll Sing in the Sunshine. She ended up having a pretty lengthy career. Her last bit of work seemed to come in 2005. She was in My Big Fat Greek Wedding and did a lot of Canadian shows, including Kung Fu: The Legend Continues, ENG,
Everybody did
and
kung fu.
the Edison Twins as well, and an episode of The Littlest Hobo because everyone did The Littlest Hobo.
Oh man, I feel like we're on an X-rated episode now, where we're constantly talking about how all those actors were in every other Canadian show.
Yeah, but a great career that stemmed out of it. Pretty good for her. Big bucket of win for her. She's still alive, which is good. 80 years old, but here's to you, Gail. You get some
Yeah,
credit.
man. Yeah, for sure.
Appreciate your fine work.
Yeah.
Rewatchability. No. I'm not putting myself through that again.
No.
If you ever go to a screening of the movie and it has a live score performance, go to see it. Get
Yeah.
like a little blindfold on
Mhm.
and just listen. Just listen.
Yeah.
Chill, yeah.
That's the best advice you can ever get about this movie.
Yeah.
Now that's some spare change for you.
Ooh. I should have like a little jar of change and just shake in the background.
I'll make you a banner and we'll just put it up on screen whenever you say something spare changey.
Oh yes. Is that all the movie morsels?
That's all the
Yes.
movie morsels.
Ooh,
Generally, when I hit the budget
you didn't catch
and
one.
the box office,
Oh.
drop. So there's something on the floor. What do we got?
Okay, this song that was played, I believe it's called "Let's Make It Tonight" or let's make it tonight. Anyways, with the distinctive opening of dun 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 dun, has been sampled in recent times, most notably by Canadian rap group Swollen Members for their classic song "Bring It Home." Yes, I knew you would get that.
I just slapped my tattoo. I should have done that.
Please don't do that.
Oh wow! Wow! I haven't heard that name in a long time. Swollen
Yes.
Members. Wow.
Devin, I know you would not get that at all, but as someone who has consistently been in a lot of karaoke bars in the GTA for the last like 10 or so years, "Bring It Home" by Swollen Members is one that is revered due to one, its re-listenability. I messed up that word, but we'll still roll with it. As well as its cheesiness and its opening notes are infectious, and I did not realize that it sampled from this score until I was watching the movie, and I was
That's crazy.
immediately able to pull it. So kudos
Wow.
once again. This is how iconic this score is, right?
Oh,
Where people 30, 40 years are still mining it, right? The content. The Pink Panther theme stands alone as
that'll
one of
never
the
go.
best pieces of film music ever created.
Mhm.
But even when you're seeing like the B side is also being mined for resources. Kudos to that. Great job, Henry.
Yeah. And deep cut, swollen members.
Swollen members.
Yeah, with the deepest cuts. Pulling out
All right, now the big
katana of
question.
knowledge.
Does it hold up? You first, Jaemeel.
I realize how appreciated this movie is, but for me, no, it doesn't. Like, get the album, the film album. I think people should watch it, right? But you'll never watch it again. It does not hold up as a movie.
No, I mean, no, just no. Yeah, no.
No.
Like
No,
at
yeah,
the
no.
like at the end of the day, it was it was the kickoff point for a massive franchise. But if you really want to watch something Pink Panther, watch the Steve Martin one.
No.
I don't know. I've never seen it, but
It's
I don't
not
know.
good.
I don't think
like
that's
it either.
prime Steve Martin.
It's not prime Steve Martin, but it's a better version of the Pink Panther.
Just watch the animated series.
You know, that
the,
too,
the cartoon Panther is a cool guy, Matt Frewer.
Yeah.
Nice thing.
Pink.
Yeah, man. No, it doesn't hold up. And I went in with 110% wanting to love this movie. And so I was worried that I was just disappointed because my expectations were too high, but you guys didn't care for it either. So it wasn't just me. All right, let's move over to Theater 2.
Well,